It's time for the Margin Matters Minute with Money Man Jason Brown.
All right, welcome back to another edition of the Margin Matters Minute. My name is Jason Brown. Today, I'm joined by a special guest who is going to be sharing his journey on how he avoids student loan debt. And of course, today's topic is the student loan debt crisis and how to avoid student loan debt if you are planning on going to college or a university in the future. And today, I would like to welcome my special guest, Mr. Derek Brott. So thank you so much, Derek, for joining me and sharing your story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Derek. And I know a lot of people are going to really relate to your story and hopefully be encouraged and inspired by your journey that you're going to share. And so everybody knows, I had emailed Derek just a list of questions for him to kind of think about for this interview. And so we're just going to kind of go through the questions. And of course, I'm sure he will be happy to share all of his insight to how he graduated with a debt-free degree. So first of all, Derek, I love asking this question before we dive into the college experience is what is your background with money? Like, how was money treated in your family when you grew up as a child? And because this is kind of what forms a lot of our money mindset is, how did your parents treat money? Did they ever teach you anything about money? Just kind of share a little bit about your background with money growing up.
Yeah. So my household was kind of split down the middle. My mom was very frugal. She grew up that way. She just naturally tended to be that way. I think she probably got it from my grandfather, who was also, he still is very frugal. When she was in high school, she saved up money, bought her first car. She's always had a good savings account and always been, she's not afraid to go to garage sales or, buy the discount stuff. And my dad is, I wouldn't say the opposite. He does have some frugal tendencies, but he never let money necessarily stop him from doing, number one, taking care of us. Number two, it didn't ever block his happiness. If he wanted to do something, or he wanted us to go out to dinner, or if he wanted to take us on a trip, we were going on the trip. So it was there was a lot of contrast in the house. And growing up, I didn't really understand it. A lot of people fight about money. So that's what naturally, I think most houses have a little bit of that back and forth between the parents. And now as an adult, I can understand both sides, where my mom was very frugal and where my dad, he just wanted to take care of his kids at the end of the day. So I could admire both sides of that. My mom brought me into a Dave Ramsey financial peace class in high school. That was probably my first real exposure to money management. She always kind of taught us the value of saving and the value of money, but that was my first real deep dive, I would say. I was in high school, a teenage boy. I didn't really grasp what I was listening to, but at the end of the day, it made me a lot better because it exposed me early. And now I've led Dave Ramsey classes. I've gone to several different Dave Ramsey classes. So I would definitely say he was a mentor that my mom kind of brought into my life early on.
That's great. That's a really good story. And what's interesting about your story, Derek, is that you mentioned your mom was frugal and your dad kind of seemed to be more of the free spender, if you will. And that's actually opposite of what most marriages are like. Just on average, usually the woman or the wife is the spender and the husband or the man is the saver. So that's what's interesting in your story is kind of your parents were kind of the opposite. So that's kind of unique, I think, a little bit in your parents' marriage. So that's kind of a fun story to hear. So let's dive right into your college experience and how you graduated debt free. Share first, where you went to college and, what your degree was in, and then kind of, share, just how you were able to journey through and earn that degree completely debt free.
Yeah. So I went to Kennesaw State, in-state, right down the street. I have a degree in, it's basically a business degree in marketing and management, focused on marketing. It was something that I was interested in high school and just kind of naturally carried over. I did graduate debt free. I used many, many different avenues. I would say, I don't know if I'm a typical story, but I'll go through, there was about 6 different ways that I went about it.
Okay. Great.
And I'll just go through it kind of chronologically.
Sure.
First, I spent my first year and a half at a technical college.
Okay.
The tuition was half to a third of what it typically is at a 4-year university. So I got my core classes taken care of.
Do you want to share the name of the technical college?
It was Chattahoochee Technical.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They, there's several technical schools around here that focus on making sure their core classes line up with the Georgia 4-year university kind of first year classes. So I made sure that all those credits would transfer. And like I said, it was half to a third of the price. Same content, a little bit smaller classes, but I enjoyed it. The second way that I went about it is I had made decent enough grades in high school and then through the first couple semesters at the technical school to get a Hope Scholarship.
Okay.
Which is funded by the lottery here in Georgia. That was a big help the first couple semesters. It covered a third to 2/3 of my tuition each semester. Okay. So that was big for me, especially once I got to Kennesaw and the tuition jumped pretty dramatically.
Okay.
And then I also qualified for a few other smaller scholarships later on, probably my junior, senior year of college. Third, both my grandparents had set aside some money throughout the years for me to go to college. That definitely was a big help the first couple years. It wasn't, they didn't have a big fund that paid for everything, but it was certainly enough to help out. Then fourth, once I transferred to KSU, I took on a job on campus.
Okay.
The on-campus job was a huge help because it kept me focused on my studies, being that I was there at the university, and having a job on campus. We're there as students, and our bosses knew that, and they supported that 100%. So if I needed to take off to go study, they were fine with that. But on the flip side of that, it gave me kind of a peek behind the curtain. I got to know advisors. I got to know financial aid. I got to know a couple different areas of the university. So I was kind of in the know when it came to how to get through college debt free, using college, using the different avenues that the college has built in already. Also, obviously, making a paycheck at the end of the day. I was able to, I think I paid for my books almost every semester once I had a job there at the university. Also, I got to get into the bookstore a little bit earlier and get the used, nice, cheap books.
Right. Good.
So that
Good.
was a big help. And then like I mentioned, my dad, he always made sure that we were taken care of. You know, anytime I came up short, he was always willing to make up the difference. So that was a big help.
That's yeah, a lot of different sources, I guess, of revenue, if you will, to pay for all those college expenses. So let's share with everyone. Did you actually live on campus, or what was the live, or did you live at home? Were you a commuter?
Yeah. A mixture, about the same as my debt-free journey. I lived at home the first year. I lived on campus for a semester or two at KSU. Um, Once I realized how much it was, I mean, I knew how much it was walking in, but once I really started seeing what it was doing to a bank account, I knew it was not sustainable to live on campus. It
Right.
was convenient. I mean, there was times I didn't see my truck for a week, especially when I was living on campus. I'd walk to class, I'd walk to work, which was a big help, but it was a pretty penny. So um, after that, I moved off campus to an apartment for a little while, um, right off of campus, close enough where I didn't have a big commute.
Hmm.
And then my senior year, I ended up um, living in another house, um, and, and it was very cheap. So
Gotcha. Okay, so let's go back to like you talked about working some jobs on campus. Now, did any of those jobs give you like a tuition like reimbursement, or was it just like an hourly, like a part-time job? How were those jobs set up?
it was an hourly part-time job at that point. Later on down the road, after I graduated, I actually stayed on campus and got a full-time job on campus, and they helped with some of the certificates, and also, as you know, they have a assistance program for MBAs or just getting your bachelor's or anything else. So um, yeah, there's plenty of opportunities working on campus to assist with that.
That's good. And we'll just real quick, we'll let all the viewers know who may not have ever heard of Kennesaw State University, and you mentioned Chattahoochee Tech. So we are actually in the Atlanta, Georgia, metropolitan area. So Kennesaw State is located about 25 miles north of Atlanta, and Chattahoochee Tech, I believe they have several campuses,
Yep.
all throughout the Atlanta metro area as well. So just so anyone who might be watching this that's outside of Atlanta has no clue. KSU, is that Kansas State? No,
Yeah, right.
it's the other KSU.
Yeah.
So just so everyone can have a geographical reference there. So next question.
Technically, we're the second largest in
Yeah, that's
Georgia,
right.
right? Is that
I
what it
think
is now?
so. Georgia State University is a massive school in downtown Atlanta, and then of course we have UGA, University of Georgia, a very big school as well. So I think that those are going to be your top three in Georgia when you look at the enrollment numbers. Yeah, those three are the predominantly largest as far as for enrollment for sure. So next question, you kind of touched on a little bit. I was going to ask you, what were the biggest challenges you faced going through school? You mentioned, getting the Hope Scholarship. Was there ever a time that you lost it? Were you able to maintain that the entire way through? Because talk a little bit more about the Hope Scholarship. I think you have to maintain, is it like a
Yep.
3.0 GPA to keep it going? How did that
Thanks for
go?
bringing up a sore
Oh no!
subject.
Oh no!
No, so crazy story. I did lose it. Um, I withdrew from a class, and I didn't get the timing right on
Oh,
it.
okay.
And I ended up it was counted as a fail, and that was rough. For about a semester, I think it was a semester or two, I did lose the Hope Scholarship. I fell below the threshold. But I worked my butt off to to get it back because, like I said, it was a huge help. Um, I think that was a big struggle. You know, as I mentioned, there was a ton of different avenues, so it was just scrapping and clawing to make sure. My dad was very adamant. He didn't go to college, but he was very adamant that his kids would have that opportunity,
Mhm.
and they would graduate debt free. So we always were brainstorming, um, how can we make this work? What do we need to do? What scholarships do we need to apply for? You know, it's I find it awkward asking your parents and grandparents for money. It
Right.
was always that weird time when the semester started, it was about to start, and you're like, hey, so can I have some money?
Yeah.
um, but, I took a lot of pride in contributing through the job that I had. And I worked a lot of hours. So, um, you know, it's just that grit and determination of, I'm here, I'm going to get this done no matter what it takes.
So share a little bit more. I know you mentioned you had applied for some other scholarships, or was it grants or scholarships?
Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit on specifically, what the scholarships were, how much you
Yeah.
got, how difficult it was to obtain those? Because that's one thing I try to tell people is there's so much scholarship money out there that people don't even know exists, and there may be, I don't know if it's what's holding people back from either applying. It's either A, they don't know it's there, or B, they know it's there and they might be afraid of applying because they think there's going to be so much competition for it. Or, the scholarship, it might be like a $500 scholarship, and they're like, well, that's really not that much money. It's probably not even worth trying for. So there's a lot of reasons why a lot of the scholarship money goes unclaimed. So kind of
Right.
share a little bit about the ones that you were able to get.
I'll be honest, I don't even remember the names of them,
Oh,
but
that's
they were the $500 ones. They were
right.
some of the smaller ones. My wife actually, uh, she graduated debt free as well, and I always remember her story because she got on to the Pell Grant,
Right.
which is huge.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you, as a student, if you're providing for, I can't remember what the threshold is, basically 70% of your expenses, I think is what it is.
Okay.
Um, then you can apply for this, I think it's a federal grant, and you don't have to pay it back.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest hang up. Um, these scholarships that make money off the interest have great marketing programs. So those are the ones that are always in the forefront. You don't ever hear about the ones that you don't have to pay back, the ones that are there to ultimately support you
Right.
at the end of the day. Um, and my biggest advice on scholarships is go talk to the advisors, go talk to the people that spend every day
Hmm.
looking at scholarships, working through scholarship applications with students, because you Google search scholarships. The ones that are going to charge you crazy interest over the next 15 years, those are the ones that are going to show up. Like I said, they have great marketing teams. Um, don't try to go it alone. Um, really lock in with a professional who does that for a living, that knows what they're doing. They'll give you great tips on the essays. A lot of them are essay based. You do have to write an essay,
Oh, right.
but
Right.
by the time you get through high school, you should be pretty good at it. And they don't expect a perfect essay. They don't expect you know writer grade stuff. It's more the quality of what you're writing, I guess,
Mhm.
the content of it than anything. So
Okay, so explain to me. I am not familiar with scholarship interest. What do you mean by that? Are there some scholarships that you have to pay back, or that are treated as loans? I thought all scholarship was basically free money. So
there's
explain
some.
what you mean by that.
It depends on. There's a few, but I was more talking about the loans, I guess,
Oh,
when I
okay.
was saying sorry, I was mixing those up in the middle of there, but that's what I meant.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, loans, um, the loan programs, those are the ones with the really great marketing.
Right.
Those are the
Okay.
ones that are going to
Of
suck you
course.
in, make you think you can get unlimited money for nothing.
Right.
Um,
Right. That's the problem that we're in with the student
right.
loan debt crisis, which of course we'll get. That's one of my questions we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, so you're saying the scholarships and the grant money, that's the way to go versus, getting a
100%.
student loan.
Yes.
And yeah, that actually, you make a really good point, because the student loans are the ones that are marketed to you, not scholarships or grants, which, to me it's free money for you. Of course, someone else is paying for it through that scholarship fund. But yeah, what's being marketed to our young students that are entering colleges, the loans, right? That's
Right.
all they're hearing about. The loans. You got to get a loan. You got to go into debt. No one's really being marketed. Hey, there's a lot of scholarship money over here that's going unclaimed every year. So
Right.
maybe you should look at, maybe you want to apply for that and, give it a shot for that. That'll be super helpful. Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure we got that clarified. So that makes much more sense. So now, Derek, just kind of looking back, you've been out of school for a little while now, and um, you shared some of your journey. Is there anything that you maybe would have done differently, either like how you managed money as a student in college, or
Yeah.
maybe different classes or programs you might have taken to lower the expenses?
Yeah. Um, I think I would have, I wish I'd have spent more time with my advisors, that's for sure. Scholarship and class advisors, all the above. Like I said, uh, having a professional to steer you is huge. It really is. It makes all the difference in the world. There's so much information out there now. It's just you drowned in it. So having somebody that cuts through all of that, I wish I would have spent more time doing that. I think, of course, I wish I would have saved a little bit more of that money that I made at my job. Um, Taco Bell and Crystal's probably got more of my paycheck than it should
Oh,
have.
I see. Yes, of course.
Yeah. So, um, just having a little bit more money set aside, because um, it's a long story, but when I graduated college, it took me about a year to find a decent full-time employer.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I graduated at kind of a weird time in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and thank God that I graduated debt free. If
Right.
I wouldn't have, I can't imagine, I know they have some type of a loan forgiveness and you can extend it, whatever, all that. But
Forbearance.
still having that over your head for a year after you graduate, thinking, universities have great marketing teams as well. And your parents, sometimes they'll tell you, hey, you got to go to college, you're going to get a great job, you're going to get, you're going to make a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
If you go in there and you get your 4-year degree, you spend a ton of money, you'll make a ton of money. No, it's not true. It's sad. There is plenty of people that have done that, but that's not the rule. So I think that was probably the biggest thing. I wish I would have been a little bit more focused, um, besides school, on really building up a decent savings.
Okay, that's really good, Derek. So let's touch on, because I'm not too familiar, because you mentioned several times, connecting with an advisor, or maybe a scholarship counselor. Now, is this something that universities have? Now, I remember, of course, that, I had an academic advisor, and I think that was once I got into my major
Yep.
program. So I studied media communications, right? So once I got into my major, there was a specific academic advisor, I guess, that was within your major that you could meet with and stuff. But is there such thing as do schools now have scholarship advisors that could help you apply for scholarships? Is that something that students could seek out?
Uh, Absolutely. Even in high school, I know
Oh,
not every high school may have that, but there are a lot of high schools that have an advisor who, um, they focus on getting you into a particular college that you may want to go to, and they also help you kind of cut through all the scholarship opportunities that are out there. I know most universities have at least a person, if not a team, dedicated to researching scholarships and kind of being a middleman between those scholarships and students. And there's even, I mean, you can even find them online.
Right,
And
right.
I would be, just as, like I said, searching online for scholarships, I would definitely vet anyone
Right.
you find online, but yeah, there's plenty of ways to do it.
Well, that's actually tremendous advice, and that's something that I would wish I would have done as well. Especially as an underclassman, right? Like your freshman and sophomore years before you kind of get into your major, is you know explore your campus and find out where all the resources are. Find out, is there a scholarship office that has counselors in there that can help you apply for some of these scholarships and grants. Find out who your academic advisor is. Find all these resources that are there, that are paid by the university to help you succeed. That is definitely a regret of mine as well. So, I don't know if it was just ignorance or not knowing that, hey, these people are here to help you. And, that's probably definitely something that kind of slipped under my radar as well, that I'm sure would have helped me as well. So that's really, really good advice there. And Derek, you transitioning right into my next question. You touched on a lot of this already, but just general thoughts on the student loan debt crisis is really it's really raging out of control. I think we're looking at close to $1.7 trillion now in total U.S. debt, and of course it's become a very hot button issue now with President Joe Biden coming in and the Democrats taking over the presidency and the administration, if you will. So that the student loan forgiveness, of course, that's the big hot button issue. Is what can we do about all this? So what are just some of your general thoughts on the whole crisis that we're dealing with?
It sucks. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. I just couldn't imagine being an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, and having something like that hanging over my head every day. I get it. I understand 100% why they want it forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, those loan programs have great marketing teams. They're in your face, and they sell the green pastures.
Mm-hmm.
They make it seem like this is the only way to do it, and it's the best way to do it. And when you're that young, you don't know. You assume that everybody has your best interest at heart, which I wish they always did, but they don't always. So it does bother me. Just being on the other side of it, I, as adamant as my dad was about me graduating debt free, every college kid I come in contact with, I just make sure they understand what that's,
Right.
What a difference that makes, what a world that makes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go in and you rack up $100,000 worth of debt, and you get out and you're making $40,000 a year, and you're trying to live. You don't have the bandwidth to pay those loans off.
Right.
And that's huge. That's something that just follows you, and it's freeing not
Mm-hmm.
having that. That's why people get so excited when they pay it off.
Right.
So if we can go to the root cause instead of keep going to let's just keep chopping the tail off instead of going to the head.
Right.
That's going to make all the difference in the world. So, I think I'm really drawn to the work that Mike Rowe does, Dirty Jobs guy.
Right.
He's very open and honest to the fact that there are so many other opportunities compared to a 4-year degree. So many opportunities. A lot of the guys that I graduated high school with, there was several of them that went to college, but there's several of them that didn't go to college.
Mm-hmm.
There's several of them that went into the trades. There's several of them that got technical degrees and went on to be, IT, getting into the IT industry.
Mm-hmm.
And within 2 years, by the time I graduated a 4-year university, these guys that had gone and gotten a 2-year degree and jumped in the field were making a ton of money.
Right.
So if money's your end goal, 4-year degree isn't always the best answer.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that went into the trade, they went into a 5-year apprenticeship program. And number one, their school was paid for within the apprenticeship program. They had full benefits and were getting paid $15, $20 an hour right out of high school.
Okay.
So going and getting into a 4-year university and taking out $100,000 worth of loans is not always the answer.
Right. So you mentioned the root cause. What do you think the root cause of this is? Or are there? It might be plural. I think it's plural. What are the root causes of this crisis?
The first thing that comes to my mind is profit.
Right.
These companies, it's easy to take advantage of a young mind.
Right.
Period. The end. All these credit card companies do the same thing.
That's a very good comparison.
Discover. I mean, I think I probably read it on your blog once or twice, but the fact that Discover spends so much money on getting in there when they're 18 years old,
mm-hmm.
And their base, their customers stay around a long, long time because
mm-hmm.
they get in when they're 18 and they have that credit card for 10, 20, 30 years.
Yep.
They have terrible interest rates.
Yep.
They have, I can go on and on about it. I was one of the victims. I mean, I've been there, done that. I was on the Discover train.
Me too.
So I think that's the root cause. I get it, in the fact that that's an opportunity for someone who maybe doesn't have all the resources to get a degree and get out in front of it. But there's so many scholarships out there. There's so many opportunities for work related.
mm-hmm.
So many companies now will help you pay for college. There's so many other opportunities where you can make money and get help at the same time versus getting this huge loan that you pay interest on for the next 25 years.
Right. And that's, you touched on a real good one is the work-based like tuition reimbursement program. And I know that the company that I'm with now, they have that and they advertise it as part of their benefits package. So some companies do a good job of advertising, hey, we have tuition reimbursement program, but then other companies, they don't really advertise it. So what I always try to tell people is, hey, if you're interested in working for, XYZ company, call their HR director and say, hey, do you guys offer a tuition reimbursement program? And sometimes they'll just say, oh, well, we never thought about that. And yeah, we can discuss. Sometimes it's like a case by case basis, right? So, So if you say, hey, I'm going to take this marketing job with this company, but I want to go get a marketing degree because this degree will directly relate to my job and my performance and my knowledge. I'd be willing to bet 9 times out of 10 that company is going to want to help you. Either they might offer to pay for 50% of your tuition, or they might just say, hey, this directly leads to your position. We will pay your tuition for this because we want to help you succeed, because you succeeding helps the company succeed. So a lot of times a company might not advertise that they have the tuition reimbursement. So always ask, right? Because all that stuff can be negotiated. If they're going to hire you,
Oh, yeah.
just ask, and you'd be surprised at what you might discover. So that's, like you said, you're right on, Derek, because this is a big trend with a lot of companies. We see, the big ones in the news, like Starbucks and, Publix and some of these other, I think Costco is doing, a lot of the big name companies, they get all the headlines in the news because they're going to offer something. But
Right.
a lot of companies are doing it, and it's extremely helpful, but you have to, you have to do your research and ask the right questions, and know that opportunities are out there for you to get your degrees paid for by your employer. So that's a real good one, for sure, for people to think about. So next question, Derek, is this is, you kind of already alluded to a little bit of this in your previous conversation here, but the notion now, especially with the student loan debt crisis, is, we always hear that, investing in yourself is always a good thing, right? If you're going to start a business or go to school or get a degree, it's always good to invest in yourself. But we've kind of come to the point where, is education, is it good debt? Is it always good debt? Because when you're investing in yourself. But see, now what's happening is people are leaving school, like you said, people are leaving school with 6-figure debt, and getting a job paying $35,000-$40,000 a year. So that's where you kind of have to kind of look back and say, was education a good debt? Like, that's kind of where we're at with this. So what are some of your thoughts on all that?
First and foremost, make sure college is for you.
Right.
And when I say college, I mean 4-year university that you are going to amass $100,000+ worth of debt. I'm not talking about, when I say college, I don't mean technical school. I'm not talking about vocational. I'm not talking about trades. I'm not talking about 2-year associate. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about the big one, the big one,
the traditional 4-year, which no one graduates in 4 years. That's another myth. The average person graduates in about 5 to 6 years, right?
Yep.
So that's another myth. But yeah, go on. Yeah, traditional 4-year.
That's the top of the heap. That's where you're going to pay the most amount of money. That's where you are going to be marketed to the most heavy, for sure. That's really where a lot of these loan programs focus, is on those big universities. That's their bread and butter. So I know that every interview process, the application asks you where you went to college and what you got your degree in, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It does not matter where you went to school, except for maybe the top 1% of jobs in individual industries. I know a lot of guys that are super intelligent engineers that went to a technical school, that didn't go to a 4-year university and got a big engineering degree. It has a lot to do with your drive. So, number one, I'd just say make sure college is for you. And if it's not, there's so many opportunities out there, like I said, to have hands-on experience while you're also getting an education, while they're also paying for your education. It's not a bad route to go. I wish I would have thought more about it. I think everybody thought the end-all be-all answer was you go to a big fancy school and you get a big fancy degree and then you get a big fancy job.
Right.
That's not, again, that's the exception, not the rule. We talk about it all the time, about how some of the wealthiest people in the world didn't go to college.
Yeah, that's a very fascinating, that's a long list of people who or didn't finish college. Like a lot of people, like Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, they started at Harvard or whatever, and or Steve Jobs, like go for a semester, drop out, start Apple or whatever. So yeah, a lot of these, Bill Gates, I think, is another one. There's a long list of the most wealthiest people in the world. You can look this up. They either never went to college at all, or they started and didn't finish.
Right.
Because it just wasn't for them, and they had bigger goals and dreams, I guess.
And I'm not bashing college. I have a 4-year degree at the second largest university in Georgia. I'm not bashing it. I think it was a great opportunity for me. It shook out a lot of my adolescence. It was, I always had an interest in marketing, and the classes and the professors there were amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed getting my degree. So like I said, I'm not bashing it, but really, think about what you want to do. And if you're not sure, then maybe those technical school, the community college or whatever, maybe that's where you start out. You get your core classes, and then you still have the opportunity to transfer to a larger university, but you do it in half the price.
Yeah, good stuff. Very good advice. Yeah, so that just, the final question I had, and you kind of already been given a lot of great advice, was, what advice would you give to, maybe some high school age, students that are looking at going to college, or any kind of further higher education? What advice would you give to avoid student loan debt, like you've been able to? Any additional advice, I guess, because you've already been given a lot of advice here so far, but is there any other thoughts on, how can I do this without, graduating with the debt?
Yeah. I would just say, more than anything, as a high school student, even as a middle school student, try to get out and be exposed to different industries, right. different job opportunities. I think that was something that I probably didn't do very well in high school. I didn't really dig into what, my dad did, my grandparents did, my uncle did, different people within my family. I kind of figured it out my first year or two of college. But I think that gives you a lot of clarity on which direction you're going to go. And I wouldn't even focus on, what do I want to do? I would probably more focus on, what do I not want to do?
Right.
What do I not, what does not seem interesting to me? What doesn't look like a lot of fun to me? And that'll just kind of narrow you down. That'll really determine your direction. Some people love being outside. Some people love, a little bit of freedom. So, they're not going to want a desk job.
Right.
There's other people that really enjoy technical skills. They really enjoy the, playing video games and working on a computer and stuff like that when they're in high school. I would just focus in on that type of stuff, because that's going to give you so much clarity on which direction to go. And then ultimately, you build off of that. That's how you avoid the debt more than anything. If you're interested in it, it'll make you want that degree even more. It'll make you work harder. It'll make you get better grades because you're actually interested in it.
Right.
In turn, you get better grades. You work harder. You're going to make a little bit more money. You're going to have more scholarship opportunities. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Very good advice, Derek. Mr. Derek Brott, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your personal debt-free degree story. I truly appreciate your time, and I know that your story will encourage and inspire many people who would be potentially trying to go to school to avoid debt altogether. A lot of good words of wisdom here. in this interview. So I do truly appreciate it. And final thoughts from me: if you're interested in checking out my blogs, like Derek mentioned, or want to learn more about my book Margin Matters, you can just go to my website, which is yourmarginmatters.com. And also my book is available on Amazon as well. So once again, for Mr. Derek Brott, my name is Jason Brown. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, remember, it's not the amount of money you make, but the margin that matters the most. And we'll see you next time.